Hello, and we are Geeks Assembled, and today we are talking a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode from season 4 called Hush. Yes, it's sometimes it is voted a lot as one of the fan favourites this episode. So we will go around this little group here with opening thoughts on this episode. I'll own up now because I've just said this before we recorded it. This is the very first episode of Buffy I have ever watched. Don't shake your head, Brian. Uh, it's one of these series that passed me by in the 90s, as did Stargate. I know Susan hates me for that as well. Look at her face. But yeah, so I admit now this is the very, very first episode of the TV series Buffy I've ever watched. I will let you know what I thought of it after these guys have done their opening thoughts. We will go with Susan and Alex.
All right. Well, Buffy the Vampire Slayer has a lot of friends who are turned into vampires eventually, but mostly this is a story of her town being kind of invaded by creatures from somewhere else due to a box that has some stuff in it, and the creatures are these guys, that one, and that guy. And they're called the Gentlemen, and they're not a very nice group of guys because they steal everybody's voices, which is funny how they did it because the little wispy thing leaves everybody's mouth in the middle of the night. And you just keep waiting for one of those guys to wake up and go, no, 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 I want that back, and grab it and try and, put it back in their mouth. But no, there's no comedy in this. It was pretty serious stuff. Oh my gosh. And then they went through their day, except for there was funny bits where they were like writing on their checkboards, and they were, trying to knock on each other's doors and stuff. So yes, comedy, no comedy. Fun show though. I, Lee, have only seen like 7 or 8 episodes total of this show myself. I know, Brian. You're probably pretty disappointed in me, but whatever. I enjoy the ones that I've seen, and this one I'd never seen before, so yay! Here's to seeing something new. Because the other thing that we reviewed today, I had already seen a lot in the early times. Anyway, these guys are pretty intimidating and remind you a bit of the Slender Man or the Silence, or you know those guys. They have a lot of that sort of similarity. The Whisper Men. Oh, that's the other Doctor Who one. That's really cool. Anyway, so I was enjoying that, and they have with them a couple crazy people in their straitjackets, kind of flopping around. It was sort of fun, and they were floating around, and then there was the guys with like uh, the straitjackets on, going blah, 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 jumping around like that and flailing their arms
I
madly.
love, I love Susan's technical terms. I really do.
Yeah, I'm just describing it the best I can. And so they anyway, they got their voices stolen by these guys, and they had to fight them. And Buffy and her friends were pretty effective in fighting them, and so it was all resolved within an hour's television viewing, which was enjoyable viewing. And here's Alex.
Okay. Again, remember the era, the time it was the 90s. You had Baywatch that was now syndicated. You had Friends. You had ER. You
Right.
had Angel as the spinoff.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, you had Seinfeld, even though that was more comedy. Joss Whedon admitted that he also did this to impress. I remember I was watching this on the CW, which is now the WB, even though it was always owned by
The other
Warner
way.
Brothers. Well, yes, CW. So it's changed now, but this was also the era of Charmed, of Dawson's Creek, of the original Melrose Place, of the original Beverly Hills 90210. And again, they still had a lot of marketing. There was only the beginnings of internet marketing at that time. But Joss Whedon also did it because he said that he was getting tired of getting criticized for the quote unquote Scooby Gang, which was Xander and Cordelia. Well, now she left. Willow, Buffy, Giles. The other thing that I liked was the joke, the in joke, when later on in the show, Giles is showing the art and the writing of the fairy tale story of the gentleman. And he was also in a British show called Jonathan Creek, and they use the exact same music as the theme song. So I was enjoying that. When I saw it first, I was kind of impressed, even though if they had the money, if they could have redone it, the special effects could have been better. But they look pretty creepy, even though Doctor Who kind of stole it, 15 years later or whatever, or 20 years later or more. It is a scary villain. It is scary that they're not able to use all the dialogue. It is funny that Anthony Stewart Head was in Doctor Who and Jonathan Creek later. It is funny that James Masters, who was the vampire, was also in Torchwood. So there's another Doctor Who connection 20 years on and such. I did like it. There's some parts of it that I actually don't like. But again, this was the 90s. This still was the VCR, the ending of the VCR. They hadn't come out with DVDs yet and all that for a lot of people. They were just starting. This was still the end of the decade for CDs. So it's a little past the time. But I mean, and they did make some mistakes with the sets and all that, and the signs and all that. But those are minor quibbles. But again, this was also the era of let's show more women fighting and doing martial arts and doing, more confrontational stuff on TV as a general rule, not just superhero stuff that actually was starting to get popular again. A lot of people I know love this show, love Xena. I wasn't a big fan of Xena. I did like it.
I like Xena.
I did. I like Xena. They had Hercules. This was also the era of a lot of syndication that wasn't based on showing old shows. This was the syndication that was new stuff. This was still USA and other. So they had a lot of competition as well. I think people forget that it wasn't all internet as well. That was still, at the beginning. And that the smartphone wasn't in everybody's hand back then as well.
Thanks for that, Alex. Right, we'll go over to a stranger.
You can as well.
Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Hello. So, you've seen every single episode of Buffy?
Yes, I have. I've seen Buffy and Angel, both of them.
Right, so we are talking Hush. So what was your opening thoughts on Hush with the gentleman?
Yes, the gentleman. Hold on.
Yes, we will talk between ourselves until he comes. Here we go.
Sorry, gotta do this. I have to do this quickly now because apparently I need medicine. But anyway,
No, we've always said you need medicine.
but anyway, this episode is actually probably one of the few best episodes that Joss Whedon has created for the show. With this being a first timer for all you guys, it's pretty much a good one to start off with. So I would definitely recommend you going back and starting from the beginning. Granted, it will be like when you start, it'll be like it will look early 90s, but other than that, it will be a good series. Hush, damn, it's just like one of those episodes that is fuck.
And he's gone again. Anyway, so let's go to favourite moments, shall we, Susan?
Sure. Okay. My favorite moment was when they were laying in bed and the little wispy came out of their mouth and they were and then they woke up and they had to deal with the ramifications of waking up without a voice. That was pretty interesting. Also, I liked it when Buffy kicked the butt of the Buffy and the Scooby Gang, as Alex has put it. They kicked the butt of the crazy people that were attached to these creeps right here.
Cool. And Alex?
Okay, and I apologize. It was on the WB when it started, and then it went to UPN, which was another network that tried to be very cute and couldn't survive even with Buffy, unless I'm mistaken, which I could be. I think it was only supposed to go up to season 5, and then she died. Buffy was actually killed off, and they brought her back. And they had 2 more seasons on UPN, and then they ended the show. And again, as most people know, there was the original movie with Luke Perry, now deceased, and Paul Reubens, who was Pee Wee Herman, and Rutger Hauer, and all that. So this was based on a movie and then re-edited and reimagined in a way twice on the 2 networks. My favorite
gentlemen weren't in the movies.
No, I understand. All. Yeah, right. We know that.
All right, cool.
I'm just saying about the main characters.
Okay.
This isn't my favorite episode. Like I said, for style, it's good. I like the first 3 seasons, really. I remember that they didn't have as much competition as they do now. I do like the actors for the most part. I didn't like the remaining seasons because I thought that they went into storylines that I didn't like. This one I like. The gentlemen are creepy. I like the in-joke with Giles. I like his dialogue. I like that Spike the vampire is sort of kept on a very minimal scenes, whereas in the other seasons he's more prominent. And I do like the writing on the overpriced dry erase boards, all these questions and misunderstandings through mannerisms. They have to mime.
Yeah.
And apparently it wasn't that easy for them. They were so used to doing the dialogue that I think they got a little confused about having to use the mannerisms.
Stretch.
And of course, there's also a not so hidden masturbation joke. And then later on, Anya is doing the actual, crude sex joke that most people know with the hands, 2 hands anyway. So I did like it at the time. It did have a good atmosphere. It did have a good direction. Did I like the story per se? No. There's other stories that I liked. But like I said, Joss Whedon now is known for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers movies, so he's done pretty well for himself. And the other characters, with the exception of Xander, have pretty much gone on and done their own thing. Nicholas Brendan, unfortunately, has had his own demons, and he hasn't been as successful as he thought he was going to be. But again, that's real life as opposed to the TV show. They've talked about bringing it back. I don't think they will. Plus, they would have to do it very well, because after 20 years on, it's a little, they'd have to update the show and all that, even though there is an animated sequel, so to speak.
Thanks for that. Right. Shall we go back to Brian now? Are you with us, Brian?
Yeah, I'm completely back now. Sorry about that.
Right. As you was carry on, as you were saying.
Okay, right. Okay. Now with Hush, this is actually one of my few favorite episodes. In fact, because this is mostly, I think it actually won an Academy. It won some kind of award, or maybe it was Academy Award or for an episode. But this episode is just completely different and unique from any TV series or even episode in general, because Joss Whedon made this episode kind of like a silent film. And you normally would see silent films from the 1920s or anything, and it was kind of different and unique to have within an episode within a TV series. And it was interesting. It was interesting to see what TV would bring to that, and what would the characters within a TV series would do. And like with this case, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it kind of makes sense, and kind of fits the format and genre of Buffy, because in it's vampires, werewolves, supernatural things, so it does make sense. The gentlemen, the gentleman creatures, they're very creepy. They really are. They creep me out. They creep me out just a teeny bit. But I mean, I think most things from the different TV shows are meant to do that. And but with one of the gentlemen is actually Douglas Jones, which is he's different characters that are like this. Like he's done the Gentleman on Buffy. He's done Saru on Star Trek Discovery. He was an alien on Fallen Skies. So I've seen him in multiple things. So, and he brings different and something cool each time whenever he's in. But with the episode itself, it's just amazingly done. I would give generally a clap and thumbs up to the cast and crew, because it was something out of their own. It was something out of their own, not out of their own, out of their own different, out of their own comfort zone, and it was something different. So it was I would just put a cheer on them.
Cool.
So what?
No, it's cool. Go on, carry on.
So, but there are loads of Buffy the Vampire Slayer episodes that is completely gets a higher and better from the format, and that is unique. I mean, they are completely well done episodes. I mean, as Fool for Love, Graduation Day Part 1 and 2, The Becoming Part 1 and 2, Once More Feeling, which is my personal favorite for this series, which is
that the musical version?
Yes, yeah. Once More Feeling is a musical episode. And with Angel from the spinoff, there is one favorite of mine, but I think we'll probably save that for another day. But basically anything that Joss Whedon does, I absolutely love, because he's probably one of the best writers and directors for my TV that I like. So he just absolutely amazing. He's just absolutely amazing and does great work. The only thing that gets me though with him is that throughout an end of a TV series that he makes, or even a movie for that matter, he kills off characters that you know and love, and which gets me every time. Every time that he does that, I hate it. Whether it be Buffy, Angel, Dollhouse, or
Well, yeah, but that happens in any drama.
that's his signature thing, though. He
Yeah,
does
but
it.
you take any drama, for example, Game of Thrones. You can go season and season, and two of your favourite characters get killed off in the first two episodes. You know, it's just one of those things these days.
I know. Most of the TV shows do that, but Joss Whedon does it constantly in everything that he does.
Oh, but so, you got any favourite moments from this episode then, Brian?
Yes. Actually, my favorite moment. My favorite moments within the episode is for when you actually first see the gentlemen, like when they come about and create havoc within Sunnydale, and to actually what you see what they do to the people. They take a knife and they just cut the hearts out of the victims. It was just that was
Yeah, and it was. I mean, I don't know what time did this used to be broadcast in America. What time was that?
I think maybe 8 o'clock at night my time.
Alex said 9.
No, about 8, 9 o'clock, something like that. Yeah. So really, yeah, it's kind of near the watershed.
It switched different networks, like Alex was saying. Like it was on WB for a time, then it went over to UPN for the last final couple of seasons. So, but now we have CW over here, so they combine the networks.
Forward.
But and then my second favorite moment is like when Giles and the rest of the Scooby Gang, as they would call themselves, is working out how to defeat the gentleman, like on the projector, and he drew like the little pictures on for everybody to like what will be going on. And then my final favorite moment would probably be when they had like the way that they defeat the gentleman. Like they silence the whole city because they can't stand sound, and it's just absolutely a cool and awesome way of how they're defeated. Buffy just opens her mouth and starts screaming, and their heads just explode, and so it just they can't stand the sound, and then it's so painful for them, and their heads just explode right off of them, which is very cool.
Yeah, that was a good scene. As I said,
this is the first ever episode that her boyfriend Riley finds out who she is, and she finds out who he is, because they work on opposite sides of things. Like she's the vampire slayer, and she works for like a government thing that hunts demons and monsters. So you guys probably wouldn't know too much really about from what goes on within that story for that season, but there was a whole plot and story within that season about that. So once you go back from the series and each season, you would probably get it. So other than that, I would probably just give that my review for the episode.
Well, so you're a fan of the series. I said this, as I said, is my first foray into it. And as you said, It's a good place to start. Good villains. It's a good story. So as you said, goes into silent movie mode, which I enjoyed because it just shows you how you can communicate in 45 minutes to 50 minutes of a show with no sound, no talking, which is brilliant the way they did it. And there is comedy elements in it, as we said, with the the masturbation sort of thing and stuff like that. But it was funny. It was funny the way they did it. It was quite, and as it has been said, the gentlemen do resemble certain Doctor Who villains, which the gentlemen were there first.
Yeah, they were. Well, there was the other scene with the dry erase boards as they're writing on the boards, the little, usually put a memo or whatever, because they didn't have text phones back then. They didn't have cell phones with text, typing with your thumbs. There was that one scene with the overhead projector with Giles, who was also in Doctor Who, and Jonathan Creek, and they had the music playing, which is the Jonathan Creek theme song in England, where he drew Buffy with a very, very wide skirt, and she kind of looks at it and goes, I'm not that fat, basically saying, why did you draw me with such a wide dress on? But I mean, again, it was also funny when Xander's kind of doing the clicking when he's, indicating something on the TV screen. So the other thing that was interesting about the episode in a way, and I think people forget it, especially when they're watching television and even with acting, is that just like when you're dealing with a baby, there's a lot of nonverbal communication. Like a smile, or if you look at somebody, or if you hug them, or whatever. And I think people forgot, and it's interesting in the episode, you can't use a whole hour of dialogue. Like a lot of the Buffy episodes are kind of slangish, and like Heather's, like Jawbreaker, like Mean Girls, like
that's what I remember.
The original, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where there's a lot of
that's what I remember.
Valley slang. It was a lot, and here you couldn't do that after 14 minutes. You had to deal with pacing and direction and movement, and it was so funny too when Allison Hannigan Willow, who after that show went into How I Met Your Mother and all that. She writes on the dry erase board, hi Giles, and he, Giles finally sees it and kind of smiles and kind of hugs her a little bit. So I think people forget that there's, just like with a baby, just like with children, people forget because they're so busy talking with the technology that there's plenty of nonverbal cues through body language and mannerisms and eyes and all that. And that's the other reason why the gentlemen are so creepy, because they're also, some of them were professional mimes or had that. And remember, back then they didn't have it. They had a show in the 70s where they had mimes that were actually, famous, Shields and Yarnell, where they had to move in a particular way and all that, like robots or mannequins or whatever. And that wasn't the TV shows of the 90s. The 90s, it was very much a, dialogue fighting, funny they still were doing catchphrases back then. So I think that's the other reason why the show and that episode are so popular. There's other ones that I like, but they're definitely more TV oriented, whereas this one is more horror movie oriented.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what Brian means in a way. It's like a silent horror movie that you can't really hear anything. You're not able to scream. So, that's pretty scary. And when are you in life like that? When you're a baby, when you're asleep, when you're eating, that you can't hear everything, you can't talk. So that's more of the private type of moments rather than when you're in a, they even say that on the episode, that a lot of talking, especially back then too, was very much, hi, how are you? It's not that people really cared what you said. They just, I see you, hi, how are you? It's not a real conversation where I say something, then you say something, and back and forth. It's more like, hi, hi, you're human, but I'm not really interested in what you have to say. And then when you see these silent, floaty skeleton things go by your window, I mean, that would actually scare you. And some of it is you can't hear them.
Not true. Watching the episode, I thought it was really well directed. The makeup, the prosthetics was brilliant. As I said earlier, you could see where a certain script editor of Doctor Who got certain characters from, suited and stuff like that. The silence, very much ripped off, I would say, and the way they floated. They didn't walk. They floated. That was just so creepy, and the way they moved the hands without saying a word, it was just brilliant. I really enjoyed this. I may have to watch some more episodes. Did Brian? Did the gentleman ever reappear in the series, or was this the only appearance?
No, this was the only appearance. So this was a creepy freak of the week type of episode.
That's a shame, that, because you'd think that because it is what these villains have become one of the fan favourites. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I like the camaraderie as well with the Scooby Gang in the silent mode as well. Just the way they worked together in the silent mode was brilliant. Also, is it Xander?
Yeah, Xander. Yeah,
Xander, the way he doesn't trust Spike. That is so good. He assumes that Spike's drinking his girlfriend's blood and stuff like that. That cracked me up.
Well, nobody really does trust Spike. I mean, at least not at that point. I mean, he doesn't have a soul yet. So.
This is only season 4, and it went on for, was it 7 seasons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets his soul in the season 6 finale.
But also as well, he's a brilliant Captain John.
Captain John Hart, yes.
Yeah, which he will be returning in the audios.
And he was Brainiac in Smallville.
And Brainiac in Smallville, yeah. Very good Brainiac in Smallville.
He is really awesome.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. I may have to delve into the world of Buffy at some point, but there's so much out there.
Well, now, Brian, because, like I said, there's only about maybe 20 episodes that I liked, and I did consider it, kind of the 90s. Like I said, I did like the movie version. I did like the first 3 seasons of Buffy. I watched all the rest of it, but I was getting more and more disappointed. Susan wanted to know how many people in the show turned into vampires. I know there was Darla, and there was a couple other people that they turned into vampires.
Well, Darla was one of the ones that was the original 4 vampires, because there was Darla, Drusilla, Spike, and Angel. Right. Those are the 4 main vampires. But I mean, nobody really turned into vampires. I mean, because unless you follow the comics.
Yeah.
So, other than the TV series, nothing.
Yeah. And then didn't the character who in this episode was new to the show, but she also was permanently killed later on in the series. What was it? The
Anya?
Anya, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the characters that got killed off right in the finale. Damn that Joss Whedon.
Yeah, but I mean, again, remember, this is before he did tons of movies.
I know, but
he also had to do something. Yeah, I mean,
every time.
Yeah, I mean, remember, this is the 90s, and part of the pull of the show, and they didn't have Facebook and all this. So part of the pull of the show, just like other shows, Friends and Alan Beale and all this other, was people getting together going, oh, did you see what happened on the show last night and all that? So he had to do things in the show that were going to make people talk about it. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, he killed like 2 characters off in each of his show. Like whatever show that he would make, he would kill like 2 characters each.
Oh, Brian, get over it. It's only a TV show.
Yeah.
I know it's been out for a long time, but every time,
Oh,
whatever he makes, whether it be TV or movie, he does it at the
well,
same
that's
time.
just, maybe, as you said earlier, it's his trademark. So you've got to expect something like that to happen. What do you know?
But he is such a brilliant director and screenwriter and a writer itself. Just
Yeah, I would say I was quite, because I say I never seen it before. I was quite surprised how good it was, just for a 50-minute episode.
I mean, there's two other episodes that are just absolutely brilliant in mine that I just thought of as well. I mean, there is The Body, which is a brilliant but tragic.
Is that the one where one of the mothers?
Yeah, Buffy's mother passed away. Yeah,
I've read about
it's just a brilliant but sad and tragic episode, but it's so good. And then there was the I forgot what it was called, but in it, Buffy like gets mind-reading powders, and towards the course of the episode, there's like a really powerful meaning event and meaning a message behind it and everything. So it's such a good episode.
I think there's a message behind every episode, really. But I enjoyed it. So shall we go to final say and score on this episode? Hush, Brian. Yeah, might as well. We've all had our favourite parts and that lot. So go on, Brian. What would you give this one?
This one, I would probably give it. I would probably give this episode a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10 from Brian. Right, let's move over to the dynamic duo.
Yeah, I'd give this I'd give this an 8 for the reasons that I mentioned. I like other episodes a little better.
8 still.
There were other seasons finales that I thought were better. And again, this is definitely a product of its time. Definitely as popular as Xena. And like I said, it was pretty well done. And Joss Whedon, as well as the cast, proved that you could take a very weird cult movie called Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Christy Swanson and Paul Rubens and Rutger Hauer and Donald Sutherland and make it, really big. Because I remember a lot of people said, "Oh, this is another stupid movie. This is another, silly California movie. High schoolers that are too old." And one, they weren't all 30 and stuff like in Beverly Hills 90210. So gotta give it credit. Yeah, gotta give it credit, even though I'm not too fond of the last 2 seasons of the show on the UPN because of the storylines. It wasn't the actors that made me annoyed. It was and I even enjoyed Angel, but I enjoyed the beginning and I enjoyed the end. I didn't like the one where they were turned into puppets either. Sesame Street.
Oh, the puppet episode.
But that was ahead of its time, and I know a lot of people that love that episode on Angel as well.
That's my favorite episode in Angel. That the puppet episode is just.
Well, I enjoyed it. I really, I guess I really like Buffy. I'll try and watch the rest at some point.
Oh, you guys better.
I guess Alex has watched it all, and so has Brian. So that's kind of a tell. So good job, you two. Way to influence me. But I'll give this an 8.5 out of 10. Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
And I'll give it 8.5 little wisps of voice.
Right. What shall I give it? I know what I'll give it. I'll give it a.
Is he there or is he still thinking? Or is he muted? I'm very funny.